Welcome back to your Feel Good Breakfast Show. This is a conversation that you definitely want to listen to closely right now, because whether it's a school group, a work group, or that chaotic cousins chat that we all have and are part of, WhatsApp is definitely where South Africans talk. But what happens when things go just a little bit too far?
Okay, don't check your phone just yet. Keep listening. In 2025, courts are beginning to hold group admins accountable for hate speech, for defamation and offensive content shared under their watch. So if you've created the group, you are responsible for what gets said in it. But does the line end there?
Goodness. Well, joining us to talk about all of this and unpack the shifting legal terrain, we've got Nicoline Skuman-Low, Managing Director at Skuman Law Inc., as well as Good FM presenter, my girl, my friend, Ms. Fozia Bull, who's here to share her take on digital responsibility in everyday life. Ladies, welcome. How are you?
Oh, I'm tired.
Yeah, I was going to say, and now a new fear has been loaded as well. So, because often we aren't in control of what gets said on these groups. Is this a new thing? Surely we've been worried about this for a while. From your perspective, you must have clocked this as being a grey area.
Right.
What has shifted now? Are we seeing actual prosecutions happening, or is there just buzz around this as a notion?
I think it's been an interesting journey, first and foremost, and perhaps we should have asked some better questions when this all started, when the rise of technology started to happen. But we've definitely seen a shift away from only looking at the creator. We're looking at the entire ecosystem now. We're looking at those who are now placed in moderatory roles, or people that are called upon to help govern how we interact in these scenarios. So it's definitely an interesting field to keep a close eye on.
Yeah, and keep constantly abreast of everything happening, because things they develop so quickly. But I'm very curious about the side of admin negligence. If I create a group, how liable am I to what goes down in there? Because, I mean, I'm just admin. That's all it is. So when does the law kick in there?
So I think when we saw the changes to WhatsApp's functionality a good couple of months ago, almost 2 years ago now, we saw the imposition of an implied governance role on the part of an admin, meaning that if something is placed that is unlawful, unsolicited, untrue, damaging in any way, then we have crossed that line and we could be in very hot water. So it's about that acknowledgement of knowing, and once we know, we have to act.
And your name is written there under admin. It's there. And everyone's now on their phones again. Just don't yet. Just keep listening, keep listening. But Fozia, this is the problem. We don't think about it as being public, right? Or how do you feel when you're posting onto a group? It's the 3 people on the group, yeah?
Yes, there we go. You just say 3 people, and they're probably thinking of me right now. I think when you, Nicoline mentioned it, that WhatsApp has changed over the last 2 years. So when you first used it, it was personal use. And I think that's where our minds are at.
Yeah.
I'm still using it for my personal...
Oh, for sure. When I see someone does a status update, I'm like, what do you mean status?
Exactly that. And now we have to shift our minds and say, okay, wait, my boss can contact me on a weekend and say, Fozia, So it's definitely that, the shift, but acknowledging that has happened.
Sure. Yeah. I got to ask you, though, in those groups, because I'm pretty sure we're all in at least 15 groups on our WhatsApp right now. Have you ever had a moment where you're like, oh, that comment makes me uncomfortable, or that's actually inappropriate, or they shouldn't have said that, that's untrue? Have you had a moment like that before?
100%.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to your community platforms.
Yes.
I don't want to mention, because I'm not sure who's watching, but yes, community platforms, that's where it's at. It's quite uncomfortable, perhaps not directed at me, but to others. And I sit there and I'm like, whoop, I know a personal message is being sent at this moment.
Yeah.
So yes, definitely felt uncomfortable.
Sure.
So let's draw those lines, because I'm on a couple of very active community groups that are very good at policing themselves, and people are quite good at letting each other know when a line has been crossed, or, so from that perspective, it's good. When it comes to the more personal groups, often stuff is sent to shock, to create, because you kind of feel like if it's being shared only amongst us, so when do we move across that line into legal, shaky ground? Is it only when someone takes something like that and then puts it out in the world? Or where do we kind of see that boundary?
I think we should see this as a larger ecosystem that consists of many components. So on the group itself, even if it's a friendly group or a close-knit group of people that are familiar offline with one another, I think we must still remember that someone could be offended or someone could be prejudiced or by simply posting something or allowing something to stay that really shouldn't be there. The problem is that it, proverbially speaking, mushrooms out the minute it travels outside that group. And from a community group perspective, remember, as an admin, we set the tone. We decide on what is acceptable and what is not. To a large degree, we implant those values into that ecosystem or component of ecosystem. And therefore, we cannot just say, I was merely in a supervisory role.
Yeah, I didn't myself put it there. I was just,
There is that responsibility.
Absolutely.
To take on. I do know that when joining certain groups, community groups in particular, they've got those guidelines. It's often on Facebook groups, but I've seen it on WhatsApp as well, where from the get-go, they're establishing, what are you here for? This is what we're about. These are the rules of this house, and you've got to abide by them, which I think is a good point to get off from. But Fawzia, I got to ask you though, do you have your own personal rules when going ahead and posting things? Do you think twice, or does it depend on where you're writing the message?
Definitely does depend. That's my first thought. What is the purpose of this group? If it's my friend group, you get all of me. You get the best of me. A joke every single day.
Yeah.
However, if it's professional, that's what I have to think of. Speak when spoken to. I know it sounds like I'm bland. My name changes from Fawzia to Sahara Desert at this point. But it is definitely taking that into consideration, knowing that respect doesn't only go two ways. In fact, I think there's a third way that it can go. Respecting that person, they respect you, and you respect yourself. That's when the dynamic changes completely. And another thing that I take into consideration would be, I don't have to respond immediately.
Yeah.
In fact, before reacting, take your time. They don't need that reply. ASAP Rocky, no, not at all.
I like that. It's good rules to follow.
Yeah, I want to think about repercussions here. What kind of hot water can we land in if now something defamatory comes out, or what kind of legal action are we seeing?
It really depends on the nature of the content and the context in which it happened, right? In terms of, is this a family group, is it a personal group, a friend group, or is it more professional, etc. So I think we need to look at each situation with its or by its own merits.
Okay.
And then remember that the worse it gets, the worse it can really get. So the point being that we could have criminal prosecution if it's criminal in nature. If we're talking defamation, there could be a civil suit. And remember, if we as the admins knew and we did nothing, we could be liable in addition to the person who actually created the content or posted on the group. So we're in the same boat when it comes to that. So I think it's really important for us to know.
Go and check your groups
Now
right
is the
now.
time.
Now you can get online, you can get on your phone and start checking your groups, and we'll temper this kind of anxiety with some beautiful emotion.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
It's true, it is your feel-good breakfast show, Expresso, right here on S3. Now let's get back to this conversation that we started a bit earlier, where group chats were designed for convenience, but they've become a legal minefield that we all got to watch our backs. From workplace chats to community forums, the risk of defamation or even hate speech is absolutely real. Is it not?
It is, and terrifying so. And of course, we know that admins can be sued or criminally charged for what members say. I think all of us right now are thinking about the last group posting that we made. So we're going to dig a little deeper into the legal ramifications with our wonderful panel here. This feels like it can be big and small. It can be petty, because now you've got something. If you've got a petty grievance, you can just go back onto the group and you can look for something. Or it could be big. If someone crosses a line and a big company, a big brand, a UKID community organisation is involved. How have you seen this play out? What has been happening, and have there been some big legal moments and repercussions?
it's an interesting space that we need to keep a close eye on, because we haven't actually seen as many court cases as we would actually expect from all of this. We've seen a lot of court cases involving WhatsApp groups in terms of the actual content posted there, but we haven't seen as much against the admins as yet. I'm not saying that it's not happening as we speak. It hasn't been concluded. So we only reckon on actual court cases having reached judgment, finalization in other words. And we've seen a couple of big ones. For example, a big media house where during the COVID period, some group members were distributing some publications unlawfully, magazines and the like. And quite a bit of money was actually claimed from both the admin as well as the person who created the post. So that, I think, is the first landmark moment that we've actually seen from how big this can mushroom, although it did not necessarily go over the line of offensiveness.
Wow. And I'm thinking now, because we might not have seen so much prosecution because there's no one to directly point a finger at. Now you've got admin.
Yeah, it literally tells you that as well. I think about like the Poppy Act. I know that's been a recent thing that's come up among the general population of should we be afraid of this? What does it actually cover? Also the Equality Act and criminal law when it comes to WhatsApp in particular. How do these things come to play?
It really depends on what happens. So, for example, if you are sharing content on a group about someone whose permission you do not have to share their personal information about, then you would trigger unlawful processing under Poppy. If it was intercepted, in other words, the messaging, let's call it chain of custody of the data, if that gets unlawfully intercepted, we may even look at the first generation legislation, the Electronic Communications and Transactions Act from the early 2000s, who everyone has seemingly forgotten about. And then, of course, if we look at the more serious things, hate speech, incitement of violence, and all those things that can really mushroom outside of the intended sharing in the first place.
Right.
That is where things get really real and may even trigger the Cybercrimes Act, which has a criminal component to it.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking of the proliferation of fake news, of bad, there's so much negative media out there at the moment that is getting shared just so freely. Do you think people even think about that there is an element of public kind of nature when feeding into a group? Is this something, do you think, that we need to start educating about within the media space? Because it's going to open doors now. I think we haven't even scratched the surface of the repercussions that can happen in this space.
I definitely think that people don't think that deeply about it. A group chat is the easiest thing to create. I can literally pull out my phone right now and be like, oop, 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 you are in that group
Yeah,
chat.
we did it last night because
Yes.
we're having a dinner on Tuesday night. Great, yeah.
Yeah. So, and another thing to take into account would be the fact that WhatsApp uses the limit or the age restriction 13.
Sure.
So 13-year-olds don't take
Yeah.
that into consideration when you create a school group or a friend chat. So it is definitely something, I mean, going back to the point that a group chat is so easy to create. When you create it, you aren't ticking down the terms and conditions. It doesn't pop up before you create this group. So having these conversations, this panel discussion is quite important because now it opens the idea that, okay, this is something we need to look into.
And it goes just beyond tone. I'm thinking, okay, so you've got groups connected to very structured things like schools, but now the dads at the school want to have a rugby dinner night out drinks thing, so they've got a different group. But it's still connected to the school, but now it's a social group, and the lines are getting blurred.
Yeah, the lines are very blurry. So having said that, if you were to talk to somebody right now and just give them a message to say, use WhatsApp, but maybe cautiously, Fozia, what would you say?
Once again, think about the purpose behind this group chat.
Yeah.
What is my context? Personal, different you. Professional, be professional about it. Respect is key. Always respect others, respect yourself as well. Think about your digital footprint. Everyone has it.
Right.
Everything that you share online, it's there. They can trace it back to you. So that is definitely, I mean, now you invite the world into your home, into your mind, into your life very easily with this device.
The access.
I'm just thinking, because we're giving AI agency to send messages for us to correlate groups of things, to do all sorts of stuff. And we've seen AI has already blackmailed someone to keep itself alive. So now it's got your whole life there. I'm just thinking, no, that might be a little further in the future. For the near future, as an admin of a group, what should be front of mind? How should we be looking and keeping our spaces safe?
I think first and foremost, I agree. We should bear in mind what the purpose of the group is and what our role is. Now, remember with the changes, we have an imposed governance role. So if you don't want that role, then don't be an admin.
Don't put your hand up.
Period.
We need to put together some rules of engagement or terms of engagement. What is acceptable, what is not acceptable, and what can you do about it if something offends you? So maybe even looking at a bit of a mechanism to say to the members of the group, if you feel uncomfortable with anything that has been posted, then this is how you go about it.
Please
so
message
that it
me,
doesn't
Yeah.
mushroom out. So I think that's first and foremost. Have some rules of how we will behave here and what we'll do if someone offends us. And I think be consistent. Consistency is key. We have to take that decision and apply our own rules consistently. If we don't, that's really when trouble starts. And I think, lastly, we've grown up, or many of us were around before the age of social media, perhaps didn't ask all the right questions at the outset, but here we are today. And I think if you are in doubt as to whether or not something's appropriate, rather take the road that is
Err
a
on the
bit
side of
more,
safety, yeah.
Yes, a bit more cautious, and rather don't post it or remove it. It's by far the much better approach.
Just imagine yourself sitting in court next to an incredible advocate explaining yourself to a judge. Maybe just do that every time you post something, and then we'll be okay. We'll bring the panel back to talk about AI next week, seeing as we're going that route. Now, this was wonderful. Thank you so much. A little bit terrifying, yes, but I think it just begs the question, are you actually cognizant of what you are posting in these kind of spaces? And if you're an admin, are you aware that the buck stops with you?